know about them until I was in college. And during my years in college, I met several. We called them queers back then.
We still use that word.
But I had a couple of really good friends at the University of Georgia that were gay. And we just accepted it. It was just what they were. I never thought much about it, except the girl in the room across the hall from me was very much in love with one of the male cheerleaders, and they were supposed to get engaged to get married, and then he had to tell her that he was gay and he wasn't going to marry her.
Was he part of the gay movement then?
Was he part of the what?
The gay movement?
I don't even know if we had a gay movement then, and this was in the late 50s. There probably was one.
Yeah.
What I recall of it, the gay movement started out in San Francisco, which was really the first major city that I'm aware of that had a sizable population. That had a sizable population of gays, and I know they had street protests out in California. I'm not familiar with what was going on in New York, but it could have been the same thing up there. I just always didn't think much about it. You know, each one has free choice. I didn't figure the movement was anything to be concerned about, because at that time things were a lot more important in my mind, such as the Vietnam War coming to an end, and that sort of protest. So I really didn't become aware of any such movement until I would guess the late 70s for me, early 60s, early 80s even. And at that time, I know your uncle was in a fraternity, and there was one of the students in that fraternity who was gay. Now, it happened to be a guy that I liked very much because I had him as a student. And your brother and all his friends kind of took after your grandpa's older generation and didn't want anything to do with him. How he got in the fraternity, I don't know. But it just never was important to me.
He got a memory.
Battery charger on.
He got a memory.
I'm talking about your son's fraternity brother.
Oh, I
I'm
missed
talking
that.
about Wally. Wally wasn't gay, was he? He was, I don't know.
Okay, so were you just like, didn't mean anything like grandma? Or did you know, like, was it a big deal to you guys or what?
It didn't mean much.
Oh, okay.
Because I didn't believe in that stuff. And I don't remember, I traveled in the middle 60s and late 60s in New York City, and I don't remember any of that. Would you mention the name of it?
Stonewall riots?
Stonewall Riots. I don't remember that at all. And I used to stay around Grand Central Station and 42nd Street and probably down to 51st Street or something like that. But I didn't, but I thought there was some of that in Chicago, some of the major cities. Chicago, Philadelphia, New York, Boston, and as your grandmother said, I think San Fran was the big thing.
I just remembered when it suddenly occurred to me this gay movement, or whatever it was going to be problematic for a lot of people and a lot of organizations, because I was working at the university.
Which one?
Valparaiso.
Yeah.
Valparaiso University. And it has strong ties to the Lutheran Church Missouri Synod, who definitely votes against all gay people, calling them sinners. And our president was in a real hot spot because he had to please the Missouri Synod, and he also had to have peace with the Evangelical Lutheran Church of America. And so
some of the
he
liberals.
had to work out this. We had a group on campus led by some professors marching for this gay movement on campus. And so he had to write a white paper on it to try to appease both church branches as well as the people on campus. And he ended up saying that he agreed with the Missouri Synod and that it was very sinful. But as long as the individual did not practice that sort of sex, then he wasn't a sinner.
Do you remember the whole outbreak of the AIDS being a big reason why they justified
Yes.
gays?
I remember the AIDS. I think what really brought that into the limelight was the little Indiana boy named Ryan that Elton John befriended.
Ryan White.
Yes, and that brought into national publicity the AIDS movement.
But you have to remember the AIDS stuff started in Africa.
Well, of course.
Well, it also, it had, a number of celebrities had died of it out in California, and people like Elizabeth Taylor had come forth from the beginning to raise funds to try to fight it. But this little Indiana boy, Ryan White, he's the one that brought it, I think, to the national attention because Elton John met him somehow, and he became his very close friend. Of course, at that time, I don't think we knew Elton John was gay, but it turns out he is. But he stayed in touch with Ryan White until the young boy died. And the media followed the young boy's disease and Elton John's contributions to the cause along that. So that's when that first became real to me.
Did either of you ever support it or go against it? Or don't give me that face. I know you didn't support it, but did you ever do anything against it, or it was just kind of not a big deal? It's kind of there.
No, but I'm definitely for finding a way to cure it, if that's at all possible. Better yet, to prevent it. I totally support those efforts that have been made to try to educate people. Unfortunately, AIDS is down in numbers now, but there's still a lot of people who don't use contraception. Another big step in this movement was Magic Johnson. That's what took a little bit of the fear away.
I know.
Oh, sorry.
When Magic Johnson came down with the virus and went public with it, and he's continued to be married to his wife now for probably 25 years since then, however long he's been out of basketball. And it dawned on us that you didn't necessarily have to die because you had it, and that you could still be married to someone even if you had it. So those were big breakthroughs, I think, in educating people about it.
Did you think that was like a justifying cause to start this gay movement, or not really? I know your thoughts on this, but
Well, in this country, we believe everyone has the right to his or her own opinion and their own way of life. So it's kind of hard for me to be against a movement that is fully within the American philosophy.
and what do you have to say about that, Grandpa?
Whatever your grandma says, I agree with.
Good answer.
I'm more liberal than he is.
Yeah. Okay. Okay, you're good. Thanks, guys.
Plus the fact